Mr. Anthony, you may start us off on match one.
All right, Manson did mention WrestleMania before, as we kicked off with a WrestleMania rematch featuring Big Time Becky Lynch facing off against the EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, for a Raw Women's Championship.
Well, Bianca Belair, of course, in her home state. And really, she was, they've put it across that she was looking for redemption from 12 months ago when she lost the title at SummerSlam in 26 seconds to Becky Lynch. So it was a big sort of build-up to get it going. I actually thought it was a very good match to open, as it turned out. I sort of been a wee bit over those two, but I thought the match actually was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. The match was solid all the way through. But once again, how many times have we seen this match?
Yeah,
I think that's where you can't get into it. And that might be the biggest problem of this card for me. Is so many matches have been redone. They've been redone from very recent, right? Yeah. So that might be why I'm not as into this card as what it is. But both wrestlers put it together a great match. You can see Belair improving every match. Every match she improves, she will, right? And that's a good thing, right? That she is improving every match. Couple of new wrinkles to her offense, right? Especially with that Spanish fly.
Wasn't that a brilliant one? The Spanish fly to the KOD.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good setup. How they went through between that. Once again, with Belair, the psychology sometimes gets lost in the matches, comeback wise, and I don't think there's enough time or effort spent in that part of working out the match. The psychology of the match in the way of, okay, Lynch worked on her right arm, on her left arm, and then with all the comeback spots, there was no my arm collapsed out of it or anything else. She went and done a whole heap of moves, then I'll sell my arm. So the psychology of the match at times was a bit lost, but the match itself was solid all the way through.
But generally, as we've said before, and I don't want to be overly negative, is most of them don't really sell.
This is something that they need to look at.
There was something I think we reviewed, might have been a pay-per-view or two back, someone's leg was almost, half hanging off. And the next thing, they're running across Irish whipping and all that, and there's nothing wrong with the leg.
And that's what happened in this match a bit too, because Lynch was looking at using the disarmer. She kept setting up for the disarmer or the cross-arm breaker, right? And in that disarmer cross-arm breaker idea, Belair needed to sell that arm was vulnerable. But when she went for her comeback spots in the match, she didn't sell that the arm was injured. Like if you look, let's look at one of the greats of doing that, which is like Bret Hart. I want to use him as a reference point.
Yes.
If he had an injury, even if it was a hand injury, he may use that hand, but straight away then he'd shake it afterwards. He would show that there's an injury, there's a complaint with it's not 100%. She did every move she could do, and then after sold the arm that her arm was bad. That is not that she's not a good worker. That is a point that you don't know.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you at all. And the other thing for me was that it's hard to, you can't put an old head on young shoulders, and she's still young. She's still trying to get there. It's going to take time, but they see her obviously as the future. And I thought probably even more so that I thought the embrace at the end was quite interesting. I thought, what's going on here? And then, of course, Bayley appears, which was fantastic to see. But gee, she was looking good.
Yep, and she's a sizable young lass, isn't she?
Yeah, she's she's one of my favourites. I actually really like Bayley. I think she's really good. She just looked very relaxed, very tanned. Yep. What you could see, the midriff there, but she looked tanned, relaxed. I don't know if she's bulked up a bit or it was just what she was wearing.
I think that might be just natural fill.
And
she might have just naturally filled out.
And then, of course, Dakota Kai and Iyo Sky coming out.
She's got her own little faction, and they're all push-ups from NXT, which is good to see.
I like that. I really like that. And then all of a sudden, sort of, Lynch stood with Bianca. as if to sort of say, well, I got your back sort of thing, and a mark of respect. So is it sort of Bianca and Becky Lynch now against this faction? And because I actually thought maybe in this match or the other women's match, Charlotte might have come out because she was tipped to return, even though her dad's doing his final match tomorrow morning our time. But yeah, no, didn't.
I don't expect to see her back straight away yet.
No?
Anyway, I don't. Not at the moment. I think that there's no hole for her to come in with a good with a good.
I think she'll take the belt from Liv Morgan when we get to that later. I think that's what will happen there.
Yeah, but I don't think that it's a given that she's going to take the belt from Liv Morgan. But do you want to dispel belief and give Liv Morgan a couple of good wins and make her look strong, and she's not just the average, she's not just a belt holder, and then bring Charlotte in and make it look like it's a bit of a fight? Because at the moment, she's going to come in and walk over Liv Morgan.
Yeah, well, I want to talk a bit about Liv later and that whole match. But look, this one, I thought for an opening match, and I thought given we'd seen them a few times, and it was also an indication of maybe what's to come now under the Triple H regime. Because they're saying now that Dunn and Pritchard are virtually gone, or if they're not gone, they're just about gone, sorry. And there's just a couple of others they said that they look like moving on, and they're basically going to end up having a whole new creative team. Now, who those people are, it's one thing to say, yeah, fantastic, we've got a whole new creative team, we'll get, good, fresh wrestling ideas, but again, it depends who they are.
Well, this is. I'm just going to go back to Bianca.
Yeah.
Just quickly.
Yeah.
What concerns me about when they say a new, fresh, creative team, it's like a football team, right? If you don't have the cattle on the paddock to put on a good job, right? Now, Bianca Belair is very talented. She's a talented athlete, and she's a talented. But as a wrestler, there's still a lot of holes in her game,
Oh, yeah.
And this leaves a problem about bringing in and training wrestlers yourself and then bringing them straight from the training academy to main roster, even through NXT, is that you're just bringing in people without any real experience. As you know, if you like your first 50 matches in your wrestling career is constantly learning. You're always learning, but your first 50 takes your first 50 matches really to start getting an understanding of what goes on in there.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, because remember before we came on here, I said I've got a few tidbits of information.
Yeah.
Well, this is a beautiful segue into one of those tidbits of information. Prior to the pay-per-view, WWE actually held some SummerSlam tryouts. There was Triple H, Paul Heyman, and a couple of others there watching all these people. Apparently, there were multiple injuries and concussions, and WWE have considered the whole exercise a total disaster, and that they are going back now to hiring indie wrestlers.
Well, I think so. And I
think that's a great thing. Because
I think it's a great thing. Yeah. And I think the indie guys, you may need to polish up on some bits and pieces.
Yeah, but they got the basics.
Yeah, but I picked Belair because Belair is probably one of the most successful ones where you say they took them through their system. But there's still fundamentals, holes to her game. It's like watching somebody that's, on an indie night somewhere wrestling. I mean, obviously a lot more polished.
Yeah.
But the psychology and the understanding of wrestling is not there.
Well,
and I think with the indie guys, you'll get that.
Around and
you can't train that.
Start to instill some of that into them.
It's very, very hard to train that. It's very, very hard to get that overnight. You're putting these people in front of TV in main events.
No,
I mean, the average punter wouldn't get what I'm being pretty picky. The average punter ain't going to get what I'm talking about.
No.
The average, but if somebody's been in the business and watches it, there's things that you pick up where you notice, well, this person, how they were trained, they weren't trained or haven't grasped that part of the business yet. She will, without a doubt.
She will. Yeah.
She's
will. Still young. I mean,
yeah, she will, without a doubt. But it just, it's that side of things that you sort of makes you concerned. Lynch, I think it's good for her to to maybe make the change to face. I hope they don't catfish this for everyone. I hope that they keep her as a face. I hope they do that because the change is good for her. She was getting stale.
Yeah.
She was getting stale. So and she's a star of that division for sure. So I want to see her kept fresh. So if they move her to a face and work her with Belair, I think it's good for Lynch as well as Belair. And look, Bayley is a great heel. She's got an annoying face that you want to slap. So she has, right?
No,
but that's good for a heel. But that's good for a heel. That's great to have that kind of face. I'm not sold on Dakota Kai. Never have been.
Yeah.
And Shirai. I've only seen her in.
She's not bad. And Dakota Kai, if memory serves me, Anthony, did she not go? If she didn't win it, she went all the way to the final of that women's tournament they did in NXT. I can't think what it's called now.
Was this Shirai or
no, Dakota Kai?
Didn't
she go towards the very pointy end of the tournament, or even that? There was that women's tournament they held. For the life of me, I can't think what it was. I think they did it over in the UK or something. NXT. Remember the big tournament and that. She did very, very well. I'm not a massive fan. I am because she's a fellow Kiwi.
Yeah.
But if she wasn't a fellow Kiwi, I'm probably not as big a fan as.
She had that run just before. Is it Gonzalez that went across?
Yeah, they were partners, and then
then she turned, and they had that run, and they quickly squashed that over with Gonzalez, I think it is, right?
Yeah,
but not. Oh, but yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Give her an opportunity. Got nothing to lose. The finish was spectacular with the Spanish fly.
I thought it was very good. Yeah,
feeding into the KOD. Though a Spanish fly is a finisher, and I would have much rather seen a 1-2-3 count of the Spanish fly. She basically the Spanish fly stood straight back up and then took the KOD. Once again, comes down to psychology. Next person has to shoot themselves when they go out there to get a finish.
Yeah.
So, but just little things like that. But yeah, this will spice up. Hopefully, Dakota Kai and Shri will actually spice up that division.
I think it needed a wee bit of freshening up.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought the women's division was starting to get a little bit tatty, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. I think that's been like that since probably. I'd say probably since WrestleMania.
Yeah, fair.
Been a little bit stale. I don't think there's been lack of direction.
Did you enjoy the match overall, Anthony?
I thought it was good. I thought I didn't know how they were going to do this because it's been done so many times, but I didn't know how they were going to do it. But I do like how they brought back Bayley.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Because Bianca was supposed to face her at Money in the Bank last year.
Yeah.
So they could definitely run that back.
Oh, well, obviously, they'll pick up given she came out. Yeah. What do you give it out of 10?
I gave it a 6.
Okay, I went 6.5. Yeah. Nick?
5.5.
Okay, so
seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, lost a few points from you because I've seen it before. So,
okay,
but still a good match. Nothing that the girls' performances it wasn't fresh. It wasn't new. It was pretty much rehashing, WrestleMania match.
Well, as I said, they were putting the full stop on a lot of Vince's stories.
Yeah.
And I said there was a few things that happened. It was the first time, I can't remember in how many years, there was no office backstage that had a sign on it that said Vince's office. They said there was no sign of Vince paraphernalia or anything at all. There was an office set up for Khan and Stephanie and a small office built and set up on backstage for Triple H.
Yeah.
And they said even from the backstage point of view, like it was a whole different feel out there.
Yeah.
So I think, you'll see going forward, well, you would expect to see from everything we're seeing and hearing, a really big fresh approach now that this one's done and they've paid their respects to Vince. and let him get as much of what he wanted in this dub. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Only time will tell now.